Hello, everybody. My name's James Gardner. I'm head of SEO here at Equimedia. And I want to take a few minutes just to explain why I think cookie consent banners have been the Cinderella of the digital marketing world for far too long. So, cookie consent banners or consent management platforms, to give them their posh title, are those pop ups that appear every time you visit a website to ask you whether you want to accept or reject cookies. And they have quite a high technicality in the background. Um, and they've often been thought until now as a legal requirement purely. But as digital marketeers, we know that when somebody visits our website, we need to make it easy for them to find the information they're looking for. Now, if the first thing they're presented to is a clunky cookie consent banner, then, well, that sets off the user journey in a very bad manner. But also, it's Google is having monitoring how we've set this up, and actually has quite a big impact on how it chooses to serve Google Ads or even to rank organically. So let me take you through that just now. Now, any of you who are using GA4, and I hope you've all got GA4 set up by now, may well have seen one or either of these banners. On the left, the blue one is a warning from Google to say that you haven't got your Google consent mode set up correctly. So Google consent mode allows the site to send pings to Google to allow it to do rich behavioral modeling of your visitors. And that provides real insight, especially where they haven't given permission for cookies. And then more critically on the right, here's a banner identified by Loves Data, which says that if you're having visitors to your website within the European Economic Area, then if your cookie consent banner is not compliant, then Google will not be allowed to send ads to your site, which may have a critical impact. And I'm going to show you a slide in a moment where actually it seems to be having an organic ranking impact as well. Now, Google flagged this nearly a year ago in May 2023 that said from January this year, it will check whether your cookie consent banner is compliant with the rules for the EEA. And if it checks that and finds that your site isn't, and it has the Google Ads bot that does this checking, then it will pause your account from sending traffic or sending Google Ads to users within the EEA. So that will be quite critical for any campaigns you're running. Now, the impact on organic has never been proven till now. But I want to show you a really interesting survey that was published just last week. This was put together by the well-known Cyrus Shepherd, who's an analyst who works for Zippy. And he analyzed 50 websites in the last couple of months, all based in the US, and that's quite important. And he saw a very strong correlation between having a cookie consent banner and ranking. Now, this is in the US where many sites do not have cookie consent banners even today. So it may well be that actually the sites that have invested in these banners are actually excellent sites and have been invested in other aspects. So this is a correlation, not a causation. But nonetheless, we must take notice of it. And actually, in the European Union, where everybody has to have a cookie consent banner, maybe the margins isn't between having and not having, but having one that works really well. And we know that user engagement is an organic ranking signal. So very important for SEO. So I think something we should really consider, that's an SEO aspect as much as a legal aspect. So my word of calling them a Cinderella of the marketing world. And I ask you that question, who is looking after it? Who has responsibility for making sure it's been set up and set up correctly? Is it your legal team, or is it your perhaps your consent management team in a large organization? Naturally, they want to make sure you hit the compliance requirement But do they really care about usability? They just want to make sure they're legal and that we're not uh, assuming permissions from our visitors when we are not entitled to assume that. It might be your IT team. It might well be, and it's very common for it to be the web team. Please go and implement this. They may well do some customization to use your logo and brand colors, but they probably don't think too hard about whether it should be at the top of the screen or at the bottom of the screen, or actually what their language and questions are. Now, I would argue that actually it should be owned by your market team, or more precisely, your conversion rate optimization team. As we mentioned a moment ago, every single person who has ever visited your website has to have engaged with this banner at least once. So let's make it easy for them. Let's not distract them and have to make them think too hard. We want them to think about what they're trying to achieve on your website. That's the priority. And if they're spending time fiddling or having to think about the options they have on the consent banner, and I will show you some in a minute, actually trying to find the consent banner, then that's really not a great start for any marketing campaign. Traditionally, people have tried to get away with one-button banners. So this is assumed consent. So this is just a little banner. And here, actually, 3 university sites. These were the ones I could only find here in February 2024, which is a little concerning because I know universities take the security of data about their undergraduates and postgraduates very seriously. And yet here, they're not following best practice. You can see here at the University of Sussex, you've got a banner here that slides in and says close. I'm not sure what I'm closing. It's just telling me they're using cookies. I have no idea what type of cookies. Close. Have I accepted it or have I just got rid of the banner? I think I've just got rid of the banner. And then you've got the University of Bristol. So here on a mobile screen, we've got an opaque banner that slides in under Find a Course. So my first thing I'm thinking about here is postgraduate open day, book your place, find a course. And then I've got to read down and realize I can't use the website. I've got to click a button called Got It. Quite what I've got is not clear. And then here we have Anglia Ruskin University. Here's a banner that is easier to find. It's less visible than the yellow banner at the bottom, but nonetheless, it's telling me they're using cookies. I click OK, and the banner disappears. And that will happen every time I visit the website. So this is assuming that by using the website, I've given my consent for cookies to be collected. This is now out of date, and anybody who's got that really should be considering updating that quickly. So most sites really seem to have moved to 2-button or 3-button. Now 2-button is some examples here. And as you can see, there is really no standardization across the net of where you would put the banner. What language do we use? Do we use things like, yes, I'm happy, as we can see here on the Guardian newspaper? Do we say accept all, or do we say consent? It's really not clear. And as a user of the internet, I have to think every time I visit a new website, which button should I click? So we can see here the Guardian on the left-hand side bottom, yes, I'm happy. Peugeot, they grey out the whole of their website and put a banner up there. At least it says, welcome to Peugeot. And I have to click the bottom button, accept all. Facebook, really quite a complicated page that covers the entire website on a mobile screen. And I have to go to the bottom and then click allow all cookies. Different language again. And then I think probably the easiest is Gardner's on the right-hand side, where I have a choice between customize or accept all. And I can't use the website until I've done that. For me, that is quite short and sweet and straightforward. But I don't think it's best practice. Now, Google used to have a 2-button choice. You could accept all, or you could more options it, and then go in, it would give you a screen and give you options. But in 2022, the French authorities fined them 150 million euros because of this. And as a consequence, you will now see this 3-button layout. So I can accept all or reject all, which you will notice are in the same colors. So I'm not giving any bias to the user. And then I have a more option in a contrasting color. This looks fine on a desktop screen on the left, and on the right, because of all of the legalese that they have, you are required to actually scroll down before you can accept either buttons. Neither's ideal, but I'm sure this has been tested and made sure that we have a lot of illegal information there. It's well laid out, so it's not misleading. And I have to roll down and choose whether I want to accept or reject all, or choose more options. So we have a choice as marketeers. We can engage with our legal team, and FedEx has a good track record of testing these banners. And their view is you give everything to the visitor straight up. So they have quite a lot of detail here. And I think their view is that if you give everything, nobody will read it and they will just accept the big orange button at the bottom. And I think it's quite unreasonable, really, to expect a visitor to a website to choose or even know what is a functional cookie, what's an analytic cookie or a tracking cookie. This is too much, and actually not every marketeer probably is fully aware of what those definitions are. Nonetheless, at least when you land on this mobile page, I can see the branding FedEx at the top. I know I've landed on the site I was expecting to, and it explains it to me, and I can go to the bottom screen and click accept all cookies. Now, I think the real horror, and this is a site I've used when I've been trying to book a hotel room. So this is IHG, who own Holiday Inn and other brands. As you load the site, you can start to use the site, and then suddenly this banner comes up and blocks the screen. So I no longer can see the IHG logo at the top left of the screen. I get a secondary logo that's sitting on the banner, and it's actually making me asking me to make choices before I can even press submit preferences. So I have to go into functional cookies and choose yes or no. I have to go to advertising cookies and trackers, yes or no, and session replay cookies, yes or no. At which point the submit preferences becomes orange and I can click it. I was quite nonplussed by this, and I'm used to cookie banners. And I just clicked decline all. That's the only button I could click that made sense to me. So that's a really bad experience. So how could we provide this as a more concise manner and really try to encourage people within the spirit of the regulations to accept all, because we want them to accept all cookies and we don't want them to spend a lot of time thinking about it. And if they reject cookies, we lose tracking, but also we have to present this banner to them every time they visit the website, which is not ideal. So let's take a look at 4 different websites here. So the first one on the left is from TrustArc. This is one of the leading CMP platforms on the market, and this is their own website. Now, first thing that strikes me about this is it's got a big call to action at the top saying pre-order now, which is distracting. We need people to focus on selecting one of the 3 options on the cookie consent banner. So they have that at the bottom, and I think that makes sense because we use our mobile phones using our thumbs. So why would I want to make somebody have to lean to the top of the screen to make this choice? Put it down near the bottom where my thumb reaches. And they've put this in the order of manage settings, accept all, and reject all. Now, we really want people to click the middle button, accept all. So it's interesting the choice that they've made, and I'm sure they've tested it. For me, it's not as logical as it might be. And then we've got the supermarket Waitrose here in the UK. Now they have a banner that comes in at the bottom. That makes sense. They've got the highlighted button, allow all, and then they've got opposing colors, reject all, with the manage cookies at the bottom. What I would say about this is I wouldn't necessarily focus on the monochrome cooking consent banner. I can see new lower prices. I can see calls to action about booking a slot or start shopping, groceries or others. And for me, I would really like to have people focus on this, make a quick decision, and then show them the information. Now, on the right, here's Netflix. You would think they would have put quite a lot of effort into getting this right. I can see Netflix halfway down the screen in the banner, but the logo at the top left of a mobile screen is covered by this banner. And again, that's at the top rather than at the bottom. And I've got a choice between personalize my choices, reject or accept. And I think if I was a naive user, I would probably not realize this was about cookies. There's no heading saying this is about cookies that I'm accepting or rejecting. And then on the right is Amazon. Amazon is famous for its testing. I can see when I land on this that it's Amazon. I can see the logo. I can't see any other buttons. And then it now says in instructions, select your cookie preferences. It has some legal text, which doesn't look too scary. And I click accept, decline, or customize. And they've highlighted accept in yellow to make it easy for them to make that choice. Now, I know some legal advice is that we shouldn't be having bias between whether people accept or decline. But I would say that actually, from a legal point of view, Amazon is a very large, well-known brand out there. And I haven't seen them being challenged on this. So I would probably be tempted to work in that sort of manner if I was setting up a new consent banner right now. Okay, what else do we need to think about with a cookie consent banner? Often we have a high-performing website, and then the web team or the IT team layer on a cookie consent banner, which might either be a plugin or it may well be a third-party software as a service almost. So here is the timeline for loading the IHG website I showed you earlier. As you can see, it's a painfully slow website. So over a simulated 4G link, we can see that the on-load time is 16.7 seconds, if we see here. And then time to interactive is just shy of 19 seconds. And you can see I can see the full website here. But just as I'm ready to go and use it, the site starts loading the cookie consent banner, which blanks out the top level of the screen and then takes another 9 seconds or so to load, which then gives me that terrible choice. And we can see here down at the bottom of the screen that the reason is that the cookie consent JavaScript isn't loaded till very late, isn't loaded till late on in the process. So this is a really bad user experience. But the other thing is it's absolutely vital that if I haven't given a consent, if I haven't clicked any of those buttons, I'm not allowed to load analytics into the browser. I'm not allowed to collect any user data. Now, if I don't have this loaded early in the process, then we're going to have our tags loading. We're going to have a lot of trackers loading, assuming that they've given consent, but they haven't given consent. So we need to have the cookie banner loaded early, or at least part of the banner loading early, which will block some of those tags from firing until the user has given their consent. So it's a really difficult balancing act about how we optimize the loading of the banner onto the page. We don't want it to slow it down, but we do need it to load early to stop the tags firing until we've got consent. So why is a cookie consent optimization deserving of more love? Firstly, we want people to opt in to cookies. Now, we are moving to a cookieless future, but we still have cookies with us today. And we want them to opt in because that gives us the first party data. That means we are allowed to track them. We can see their visits aggregated inside GA4. But we also want to be able to have the banner set up correctly so that it's using Google Consent Mode, or Google Consent Mode version 2 that has just come out. Instead of, if they reject the cookies, Google sends a ping to its servers so that it can aggregate and model them. And this provides us with really rich behavioral insights. And absolutely, we need those. It's getting harder and harder to understand what's happening on our websites. And thirdly, we've got much more important things coming down the road, like AI. So I've got a quick screenshot at the bottom there from Google's beta version of its search generative experience, where we can see the AI results are coming in at the top of search results. Now, this is going to be, the biggest shakeup perhaps for a decade. So we need to get our analytics working so that we can focus on other aspects of how we can maintain traffic coming through to our website, which is a key aspect. It's going to be exciting and a little bit fearful of how that's going to impact us going forwards. And it's probably only a few months away. So what are some things that you really should be doing now? There's a lot happening at the moment, as I'm sure you're all aware. First, you need to get your consent banner UX optimized. Is it loading quickly? Have you thought about which part of the screen you want to load it on? Are you covering up other calls to actions that might be a distraction? And then think about, obviously, the legal aspect, but also, are you making it easy for people to make that choice to go accept all cookies? As I mentioned a moment ago, you need to check that if they haven't given consent, you're blocking all of the tags that are collecting information from firing. We've just been auditing a few websites recently, and we've discovered that everything seems set up correctly until you're realizing it's firing the analytics and pixel tags, which are collecting data when the user hasn't given consent. Secondly, if you have got Google Consent Mode set up, make sure you've updated it to version 2. This is coming in, and you need to have that by the end of March. I've talked to you about the importance of speed. Speed is a ranking factor as part of Core Web Vitals. From the 12th of March, it's changing slightly, where INP, which is interaction to next paint, becomes part of it. And this would be highly dependent on the first page load, certainly for the first page that someone visits on your cookie consent banner. So have a work on that. I would say to you, it's perhaps not as important for SEO as some people might tell you, but it's about user experience. We want people to see a slick site so they can focus on what they're trying to find on your site without having to work out how to use your site. And then I hope most of you have done this already. Make sure your GA4 is set up. It's quite complicated. Make sure you've set it up correctly, or find somebody who can help you do that. And GA4 is quite challenging to use. It's not as intuitive as using Universal Analytics. So you may well need to do some staff training. And finally, Universal Analytics data, you may well still be able to access it, but from the 1st of July, Google is wiping that data. So you need to think about how you're going to back that up. And there are solutions via something called BigQuery. But if you haven't sorted it out, you will lose your data on the 1st of July this year. So please take it seriously. So I think that's about 15 minutes to give you a quick tour of some really quite difficult issues, which are affecting legal, technical, UX, conversion rate, amongst other things. So let me just tell you how Equimedia might be able to help you. We have dedicated teams covering these different aspects. So we have our analytics teams that can help you set up your consent banners. We are a partner of OneTrust, which is the market leading consent management platform worldwide. They will help you set up Google Consent Mode version 2. And they will also be able to make sure that your Google Analytics is working well, that it's got goals set up that you are useful for your business. And they've also been getting to terms with BigQuery, which is a repository where you can store your UA data, your GA4 data, which is only valid for 14 months, or it's only kept by Google for 14 months. You can back that up to BigQuery. And then more importantly, how do you get that back out of BigQuery, which may well be via Google Looker Studio. And then we can also give you some GA4 training if that's what you need. And then we have our CRO team. So our CRO team is, you've got a visitor to your website. How do we get them through to meet the goals that you have? So that, are they buying something? Are they becoming a lead? These are really essential aspects, and it's a complicated but essential element of SEO, as well as simply just a conversion. So there's 3 ways you can do that. Inside OneTrust, there is some tools that allow you to test how changes to the colors or the layout or the text on a OneTrust cookie consent banner can impact how people use it. And that's really valuable, and we can help you do that so that you can optimize your banner. We're Google partners, and Google Ads has some really valuable but not very well used tool called Google Ads Experiments. So you can actually do some A/B testing between pages by sending 50% of the ads to page A and 50% to page B, and see which one converts better. And then finally, we're a VWO trusted agency. Many of our clients have been using Google Optimizer for many years. It was a free tool that sunsetted last year. And many of them have moved over to VWO, which is a hugely sophisticated tool. It's quite complicated to use and has lots of buttons. But actually, if you're ready and your business is ready to move to a sophisticated CRO platform, then I can highly recommend that. And certainly we can help you with that. And then finally, which is, I guess, my own speciality, which is SEO. You need your site to be slick and work quickly. And we can help you by looking at that. And it's not a simple task, because it's a compromise to get everything to work well together. But that's certainly something that we could help you with. So I hope you found that useful. If you are watching this on YouTube, then please do give me a thumbs up. That's really encourages us to keep making these videos that we hope you will find useful. If you have any other feedback, then we'll be delighted to hear that. And thank you for your time. And please don't allow Cinderella to remain unloved for much longer. Thank you.